My name is Susan, and I will never forget the Christmas night when my family mocked me in front of everyone. It was supposed to be a celebration of warmth, of tradition, of love. But instead, it became the stage where their laughter cut me deeper than any knife. The house glowed with strings of lights, ornaments glittering on the tree. The air smelled of pine and cinnamon, baked ham and nutmeg cookies. Everyone dressed in their best, shimmering gowns and tailored suits. I had saved for months to buy my dress. A deep green silk with a soft shine, simple but elegant. I thought it was beautiful. I thought maybe just this once I would stand in the same light as my sister. But beauty was not what they saw. The first laugh came from my cousin, wine glass in hand, her voice pitched high. That looks like something from a clearance rack. My aunt chuckled next, shaking her head. Susan has always been the plain one. And then my sister, Amelia, lifted her glass, her eyes sparkling with cruelty. Don't worry, Susan. Maybe next year you'll wear something that doesn't look like a tablecloth. The laughter swelled, cruel and sharp. Even my parents smiled faintly, as though mocking me was harmless holiday fun. And Marcus, my husband, the man who once swore I was his treasure, did nothing. He laughed. He stood beside Amelia, his arm brushing hers, his grin wide as though her joke delighted him. That was when the air in my chest shattered. Humiliation doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it is handed to you by the very people you trust most. I excused myself and walked into the kitchen, where the noise dulled behind closed doors. The glow of the Christmas tree reflected in the window, framing my silhouette. I stared at myself, at the woman in the green silk dress. In that reflection I didn't see elegance. I saw mockery clinging to me like a second skin. But beneath the humiliation something stirred. I pressed my hands flat against the counter and whispered, "One day, you'll regret this. One day, this dress you mocked will be the one none of you forget." I didn't know how. I didn't know when. But the vow rooted itself deep in me. Later, as gifts were unwrapped and carols hummed through the house, I sat with a smile frozen on my face. Marcus leaned close, whispering, "Don't be so sensitive. It was just a joke." But I saw the way he looked at Amelia. I saw her bask in the room's laughter, her cruelty shining like a crown. The lights sparkled, the music played, but inside me grew something colder. A determination born from pain. They thought my silence meant weakness. They thought my dress was pathetic. They thought I was forgettable, destined always to stand in the shadows, grateful for scraps of respect. They were wrong. Because one day I would walk into a room wearing that same dress. And the governor himself would introduce me as his partner. And in that moment silence would fall, thick, suffocating silence, and every laugh they had thrown at me would wither in their throats. Because on that Christmas night, when they mocked me, they planted the seed of their own humiliation. And from that night forward, my silence was no longer surrender. It was the beginning of revenge. The laughter from that Christmas night echoed long after the holiday ended. Every time I looked at the green dress hanging in my closet, I could still hear Amelia's voice mocking me, Marcus's chuckle joining hers. But humiliation was only the surface. Beneath it, something darker brewed. In January, Marcus started coming home later. At first, he had excuses: work dinners, networking events, last-minute client meetings. I wanted to believe him. I told myself he was ambitious, that he was working hard for our future. But the details didn't fit. One evening he came home smelling faintly of perfume, not mine. A delicate, floral scent clung to his jacket. When I asked about it, he laughed. "You're imagining things, Susan. Maybe the waitress leaned too close." His answer was easy, too easy. The following week, I noticed how fiercely he guarded his phone. He carried it from room to room, never leaving it on the counter as he once had. When I asked who he was messaging so late at night, he muttered, "Just clients," before turning the screen away from me. A knot began to form in my stomach, the kind of knot you can't untie with logic because it's made of instinct. One Saturday, Amelia invited me to her apartment for brunch. I almost didn't go, but curiosity pulled me. She greeted me in silk pajamas, her hair tousled, her smile smug. "Susan," she said sweetly, "you should really try harder. Men like Marcus, they get bored." The words hit me harder than her Christmas cruelty. My heart thudded. Why would she say that? Unless she knew something. Unless she was part of something. I drove home that afternoon replaying her tone, the glint in her eyes. When I walked through the door, Marcus was on the phone. He lowered his voice when he saw me, whispering into the receiver, "I'll see you tomorrow." Then he ended the call abruptly, smiling too quickly. That night, while he showered, I slipped his jacket from the chair and searched the pockets. My fingers brushed against a folded receipt. My breath caught as I read it. Dinner for two at a hotel restaurant on the exact night he claimed he was working late. A bottle of champagne. Dessert for two. I pressed the receipt flat against the table, my hands trembling. Evidence. Not a guess. Not a suspicion. Evidence. Still, I told myself to wait. One piece of paper could be explained away. But my chest told me otherwise. The next morning, I woke early and checked the laundry basket. There, tucked inside his shirt pocket, was a lipstick-stained napkin. Red. Bold. A color I never wore. When I confronted him, holding the napkin up between us, Marcus laughed again. Paranoid much? Probably from the dry cleaner. His arrogance was sharper than the proof itself. He looked me in the eye, daring me to argue, confident I would back down. And I did out loud. But inside something broke. I realized then that the Christmas laughter had been more than cruelty. It had been foreshadowing. Marcus hadn't defended me because he didn't see me as his partner. He saw me as disposable. Just like Amelia did. And suddenly, Amelia's brunch words made sense. Men like Marcus, they get bored. She hadn't been warning me. She had been mocking me with knowledge I wasn't supposed to have. That night, as Marcus slept beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. My chest ached with betrayal, but my mind was clear. I knew I couldn't simply accuse them. If I did, they would twist the truth, laugh at me again, call me hysterical. I needed more. More receipts. More proof. A pattern so undeniable that when I revealed it, neither Marcus nor Amelia would have room to speak. I rose from bed, walked into the kitchen, and pulled the green dress from the closet where it hung like a scar. I touched the fabric softly. "They mocked you," I whispered. "But one day you will be my weapon." Because now I had the first proof, the first cracks in their lies. And I swore to myself I would not rest until every secret was dragged into the light, and until the day my humiliation became their downfall. After the lipstick-stained napkin, I stopped giving Marcus the benefit of the doubt. I realized my survival depended on proof, not hope. And so, I began to watch him with the kind of patience that comes only when your heart has already broken. I bought a small notebook and labeled the first page in bold letters. Evidence log. Every suspicious move went into it. Dates, times, places. If Marcus thought I was plain and quiet, then good. He would never suspect how quietly I was building the case that would bury him. The first entries were small. A late-night call with his voice pitched low, ending abruptly when I walked into the room. A restaurant charge on his credit card from a place he claimed to hate. A faint perfume lingering on his collar when he came home from the office. Then came something bigger. One Tuesday evening he left his laptop open, and though it was locked, the email preview flashed on the screen before it dimmed. The sender's name was Amelia. My breath caught. I didn't dare open it, but the subject line alone chilled me. "Miss you already." I copied the date and time into my log. I started shadowing him without his knowledge. If he said he had late meetings, I'd drive past the supposed office. Twice I found the parking lot empty, his car nowhere in sight. Once I caught sight of his car outside Amelia's apartment. My hands shook as I snapped a photo from the shadows, headlights off, engine humming softly beneath me. Proof. Another brick in the wall. I learned to check his receipts before he shredded them. Champagne bottles, expensive desserts, silk scarves from boutiques I knew Amelia loved. I slipped them into a folder hidden at the back of my closet. But I wanted voices too. Words that could not be denied. So one evening, I left my phone recording in the living room before stepping outside to take a call. When I played it back, my chest tightened at the sound. Marcus whispering into the phone, "I can't wait until we don't have to sneak around. She suspects nothing." He meant me. I was the fool in his play. I saved the recording, labeling it carefully in my growing digital archive. Amelia too left trails. She couldn't help herself. On social media she posted endless photos. The corner of a man's jacket, champagne flutes clinking, captions like, "Some secrets are too sweet to hide forever." I screenshotted every one. Still, I needed corroboration. Someone outside of me, someone who had seen them together. I started frequenting the cafe near Amelia's apartment, the same one where I suspected they met. After a few visits, I struck up a conversation with a waitress. With a polite smile, I asked if she saw my husband there often. "Oh yes," she said casually, not realizing her words were daggers. "He's here all the time with the brunette. They sit in the corner, laughing like they don't have a care in the world." I thanked her with a smile and slipped an extra bill under my saucer. In my notebook, I underlined the entry 3 times. The evidence grew like a fortress. By February, my folder was thick with receipts, screenshots, photos, recordings, notes, and testimonies. Every piece was another nail in the coffin Marcus and Amelia had built for themselves. And yet I remained silent. When Marcus kissed me absent-mindedly, when Amelia called with her bright, fake laughter, I responded calmly. My silence wasn't surrender anymore. It was preparation. I rehearsed what it would feel like to reveal it all. I imagined their faces, the silence that would fall, the collapse of their smugness. But I wasn't ready yet. The stage had to be perfect. The audience large enough. The blow undeniable. So I waited. And while I waited, I sharpened my weapon, page by page, file by file, receipt by receipt. Late one night, after Marcus had fallen asleep beside me, I crept into the kitchen and opened the folder. The green silk dress hung across a chair. I touched it gently, remembering Amelia's cruel laughter. "You mocked me," I whispered. "But this dress will outlive your cruelty. It will walk into a room you can never follow." Because now the evidence was undeniable, the pattern complete. All that remained was finding allies, building the counterplan, and waiting for the perfect stage to deliver the blow that neither Marcus nor Amelia would ever forget. Carrying that folder alone had changed me. It was heavy not just with paper but with a new kind of purpose. Proof alone can intimidate a liar. But proof with allies becomes a trap. I needed people who would not flinch. People who would not tell me to forgive and forget. People who would help me build a clean legal plan. The first person I called was Lydia. She has been my friend since college. She knows how I think. She is brave in ways I am not. When she arrived, I pushed the folder across the table and did not speak. Her eyes scanned the pages like a detective. She did not gasp. She did not look away. She folded her hands and said, "This is enough." Her voice was steady. Felt like wind at my back. "Are you sure?" she asked. Her question was practical, not pitying. "We cannot rush this. He will fight. She will spin. We must be precise." I nodded. "I do not want a scene. I want proof to speak." Lydia smiled grimly. "Then we will make proof loud. We needed more than friendship. We needed a shield." Lydia recommended a lawyer. She pulled out her phone and made a call. The next day I was meeting Evelyn. Evelyn was all business. Tall, calm, direct. She did not say the things women often say to soften betrayal. She said 3 words that mattered. Document everything. Preserve everything. She explained forensics in a way that felt like armor. Timestamps. Metadata. Chain of custody. Certified copies. She used words that made my scattered evidence sound like a legal fortress. "You did the right thing keeping receipts," she said. "Do not let anything be altered. We file preservation. We make the timeline indisputable. He will try to accuse you of fabrication. We make that impossible." Her confidence steadied me. Evelyn set up a secure drive. She locked the files behind legal counsel notes. She told me how to handle questions. Speak only in short sentences. Do not volunteer details. Let the documents do the work. Lydia and Evelyn were not enough. I needed witnesses. I needed subtle amplification. Lydia suggested someone from her firm who owed her a favor. Naomi handled communications for a nonprofit. She knew media. She knew how to make facts land without drama. I called Naomi on a Friday evening. She answered with the exact dry tone I needed. "We do not need to create noise," she said. "We need to channel attention to the truth. Timing is everything." The plan started to feel real when Naomi offered to prepare discreet outreach. She would contact a journalist I could trust. She would prepare a short statement that journalists could verify with Evelyn. No leaks. No tabloid frenzy. No vendettas. Controlled exposure. We met in my living room with the folder spread like a map. Lydia handled logistics. Evelyn handled legality. Naomi handled the narrative. I handled resolve. Evelyn wrote down the steps. Number 1. Do not confront them alone. Number 2. Collect witness statements now. Bartenders, waitstaff, neighbors. Number 3. Back up every file in 3 places. Number 4. Do not discuss this on social media. Number 5. Choose a public stage. A place where the audience will see all of it and where spin will fail. A public stage? I repeated. My pulse quickened. The wedding? The holiday party? The charity gala? Lydia looked at me. Her eyes were clear. You know him, Susan. He loves a controlled room. He loves familiar faces. He will assume he can control what happens there. That is the point. We take his room and turn it into a court of truth. I felt a cold clarity then. The wedding was exactly his kind of theater. It was also exactly my chance. We rehearsed. We practiced handing packets to specific people. Naomi created a list of trusted journalists and how to reach them without alarms. Evelyn prepared affidavits and the legal steps to authenticate digital files. Lydia mapped the sequence of events. We spoke in short phrases. Calm. Precise. There were risks. Evelyn warned me of retaliation. Marcus could file a suit. He could claim invasion of privacy. He could smear me. He could try to isolate me from family. We planned for that. We documented chain of custody. We prepared a public statement that leaned on verified facts, not on rage. We also planned for my heart. Revenge can burn the one who wields it, Lydia said. Keep your center. This is not about hurting them more than they hurt you. This is about correcting what you did not deserve. Her voice kept me honest. At night I lay awake thinking of the green dress. Once a symbol of ridicule. Now it felt like armor. My silence had been a camouflage. Now it would be the moment they did not expect. On the morning before the wedding, Lydia handed me a small envelope. Inside was a list. Names of people who would receive a packet. Times. Backups. Naomi's number. Evelyn's stamped affidavits. The plan left no room for improvisation. It left room only for truth. As I folded the plan and tucked it into my jacket, my phone lit up. A message from an unknown number. 4 words. Simple. Menacing. We are watching you. The blood drained from my face. I forwarded the message to Evelyn and she read it once, then twice. Her jaw tightened. They heard rumors, she said. Or they are panicking. Either way, Susan, they know something. We move faster. We cannot wait now. Because the stage was set, the allies were ready, and the plan had begun. But when someone sends a warning like that, the danger sharpens. They might try to strike first. The wedding was hours away. I had to decide whether to accelerate the reveal, or to hold to the timing we rehearsed. Either choice risked everything. The message, "We are watching you," did not frighten me into retreat. It sharpened my resolve. If they were nervous, it meant the cracks had already spread. They suspected I knew something. They just didn't know how much. That gave me the advantage. We met that same night in Lydia's apartment. Papers covered her dining table like tiles of a mosaic. Receipts, photos, emails, printouts of texts. The folder I had carried alone was now spread wide, each piece like a weapon being polished. Evelyn tapped the message on my phone with the tip of her pen. This is not a bluff. It means either Marcus or Amelia is aware of surveillance. They might accelerate their own moves. We need to tighten timing. Naomi leaned back, her eyes calculating. If they're panicking, they'll make mistakes. That's good for us. But it also means they could try to spin first. Leak something. Paint you as bitter. If that happens, you must have the upper hand ready. We built the counterplan step by step. Step 1, redundancy. Every file was copied 3 times. Evelyn stored 1 copy under legal privilege in her office. Lydia hid 1 in a safe deposit box. I carried a flash drive taped beneath the lining of my purse. If they destroy 1, Evelyn said, another lives. They cannot erase this. Step 2, witnesses. Naomi contacted 3 journalists she trusted. People who valued facts more than drama. They would be present at the wedding under the guise of covering the event for society columns. At the right signal, they would receive sealed packets. Each packet contained a streamlined set. Photo evidence, time-stamped receipts, certified messages. Enough to paint the betrayal clearly, without sensationalism. Step 3: Delivery. We rehearsed how to hand out the packets. Lydia would pass them discreetly during the reception. Evelyn would monitor from the back with her legal files in case Marcus tried to shout forgery. I would carry the portable speaker hidden in my clutch, loaded with recordings. When the moment came, I would not need many words, just the evidence spoken in their own voices. Step 4: Stage. We debated when to strike. Evelyn wanted precision. Just after the vows, she said. When silence hangs, they will expect applause. Instead, they will get truth. Lydia shook her head. No. Too formal. Too stiff. Do it at the toast. A toast is his theater. Take his theater away. Finally we agreed the toast. Marcus loved speeches. He would raise his glass, smug and certain. That would be my moment to step forward, to let the truth roll across the room like a wave. Step 5: Demeanor. Stay calm, Evelyn repeated. Do not shout. Do not cry. Let them rage. Let them flail. If you stay composed, the room will side with you. They will look like fire, you will look like stone. We practiced in Lydia's living room. I stood as though holding a glass, waited for silence, then said softly, "Before we toast, you deserve to know the truth." Lydia pressed play on the speaker. Marcus's whisper filled the room. She suspects nothing. Even in rehearsal, the sound made my skin prickle. Evelyn adjusted her glasses. Perfect. Do not embellish. Do not gloat. Facts are sharper than anger. But doubt flickered in me. What if they strike first? What if they twist it before I can act? Naomi leaned forward. Then you act faster. If Marcus or Amelia tries to smear you in front of the guests, you stand and press play. The recordings will cut them down before their words finish. You hold the blade, Susan. Use it when needed. The green silk dress hung on Lydia's doorframe, pressed and ready. Once mocked, now chosen deliberately. Wear it, Lydia said firmly. Make them look at what they laughed at. Make the dress the symbol of their downfall. As midnight drew near, we finalized the backup plans. If I faltered, Lydia would step forward. If they tried to silence me, Evelyn would assert legality. If the crowd hesitated, Naomi's journalists would publish within hours. Every exit had been covered. I drove home with the dress beside me, the clutch in my lap, the flash drive beneath the lining of my purse. The city lights blurred as my mind replayed every cruel laugh from Christmas, every whisper between Marcus and Amelia, every smirk I had swallowed. Tomorrow they would choke on their own words. But just as I reached my apartment, my phone buzzed again. A new message. 5 words this time. We will speak first tomorrow. I stared at the screen, pulse hammering. Did they plan to expose me? To smear me before I spoke? Or was it a bluff to break my nerve? Because the plan was sharp, the stage was set, but now the enemy was moving too. Tomorrow either they would ruin me or I would ruin them first. The morning of the event came wrapped in winter fog. The city streets glistened from overnight frost, the lamps still glowing against the pale dawn. I stared at the green silk dress hanging from the doorframe. Once mocked, now chosen. Today it would no longer be a joke. Today it would be my armor. I slipped it on, smoothing the fabric with steady hands. My hair was pinned simply, my makeup minimal. No sequins. No glitter. Just the woman they thought too plain, standing straighter than she ever had. Lydia arrived first, carrying a small bag with the sealed packets. Evelyn followed, briefcase in hand. Naomi texted from the venue. Press is here. In position. Calm is key. The car ride felt endless. Lydia hummed nervously in the front seat while Evelyn scrolled through her files, double-checking the certification stamps. I sat in silence, watching the city blur. My pulse was steady but deep, like the slow drum before battle. The event hall was decorated in gold and crimson. Garlands wrapped the balconies, crystal chandeliers scattered light across polished floors. Guests in gowns and tuxedos moved like a glittering tide, laughing, toasting, admiring each other. At the center of it all stood Marcus and Amelia, together, radiant, smug. I froze when I saw them, not because of their confidence but because of what Marcus was holding. A microphone. He was already on stage, already speaking. My blood ran cold. Thank you all for coming, he said, his voice smooth, practiced. Tonight is about family, about truth, about starting new chapters. And before the evening continues, there is something you all need to know. My stomach clenched. He was going to do it. He was going to smear me first, to paint me bitter before I could reveal his betrayal. The message from last night echoed in my ears. We will speak first tomorrow. Lydia gripped my arm. Susan, he's about to spin this. Marcus continued, his grin wide. Lately, some malicious rumors have been spread. Rumors meant to divide family, to poison joy. These lies come from bitterness, from someone who cannot stand to see happiness in others. But tonight, Amelia and I stand together to say. My heart pounded. My clutch felt heavy with the speaker inside. This was not the moment we rehearsed. The toast was supposed to be later. The timing was supposed to be mine. But if I waited, his story would set like cement. Evelyn leaned close, her whisper sharp. If he defines the narrative, it will take longer to undo. Act now. I rose, my chair scraping softly against the polished floor. Heads turned as I walked forward, the green silk shimmering in the chandelier light. Marcus's eyes flicked to me, just for a moment, and I saw fear beneath his smugness. He knew. Marcus, I said, my voice calm, carrying through the hall. You're right. Tonight is about truth. Let's tell it then. The room hushed instantly. I pulled the small speaker from my clutch and pressed play. His voice filled the hall, caught in crisp recording. She suspects nothing. By the event it'll be done. Gasps rippled like a wave. Amelia's smile cracked. Guests turned, whispering, their eyes darting from me to them. Press play again. Amelia's own words from the email. Soon it will be just us. No more hiding. The hall seemed to freeze. Glasses lowered. Laughter died. The chandeliers still glittered, but their light felt colder now. Marcus stammered into the microphone. That's fake. Fabricated. But Evelyn stepped forward, her voice firm. These are verified files, authenticated by independent forensic experts. Timestamped, certified, indisputable. She held up the signed affidavits, her tone like a gavel striking wood. Amelia clutched Marcus's arm, her face pale. Marcus, stop. Don't say anything. But it was too late. The tide had shifted. Guests began muttering louder, some shaking their heads, others glaring openly. I stood tall, my voice steady. On Christmas you mocked my dress. You mocked me. But tonight I stand here in the same dress, with the truth as my crown. And it is your laughter that dies, not mine. The silence that followed was heavy, absolute. Because though I had taken the stage back, the night was not over. Marcus and Amelia were cornered, and cornered liars lash out hardest. The reveal had landed, but the fallout was about to ignite. The silence that followed my words was the kind that presses against the skin. Chandeliers gleamed, glasses trembled in hands, but no one dared to speak. The recording still echoed in the air like ghosts that refused to leave. Marcus clutched the microphone, his knuckles white. This is ridiculous, he shouted, his voice cracking. She's jealous, she's bitter. She doctored this. Evelyn stepped forward, her heels sharp against the marble floor. She lifted a folder high. Independent forensic reports. Every file is certified. Every timestamp confirmed. These are your words, Mr. Cole. Not hers. Gasps rippled again. A woman in the front row shook her head, whispering to her husband. So it's true. Amelia tugged at Marcus's sleeve, her face pale beneath layers of makeup. Stop talking, she hissed, but her whisper carried in the stunned silence. Her own words had been read aloud already. Soon it will be just us. Everyone knew. I took a step closer to the stage, my green silk dress catching the light. You mocked me, Marcus. You laughed with her when I stood alone. You told me I was nothing. But tonight, it is you who stands stripped of everything. Marcus tried to steady his voice, but fury strangled it. This is slander. You'll pay for this. No, I replied, calm as stone. You already paid. With your own arrogance. I turned then not to Marcus but to Amelia. And you, sister. You told me I'd never matter. That I would always be plain. But tonight, your crown of cruelty has crumbled in front of the very people you wanted to impress. Amelia's eyes filled with tears, but they weren't the tears of guilt. They were tears of exposure, of losing control. "Susan, please," she whispered, her voice trembling. But the room was no longer hers to beg from. The guests had turned cold, their eyes sharp with judgment. Lydia moved discreetly through the crowd, slipping sealed packets into the hands of journalists. Naomi gave a subtle nod from across the hall. Within hours, the evidence would spread beyond these walls. The world would see what this room already knew. Victor's parents, longtime friends of the family, rose from their seats. "This event is over," Victor's father declared. "We will not stand by betrayal." His words landed like a gavel, final and heavy. Some guests stood to leave, disgust clear on their faces. Others lingered, whispering furiously, watching the stage as if it were a theater of tragedy. Marcus threw the microphone down, his voice raw. "You'll regret this, Susan. You think you've won? You think anyone will respect you after this?" I lifted my chin. Respect isn't given by liars. Respect is earned in truth. And tonight I earned mine. The murmurs grew louder. For the first time in years, people looked at me not as the quiet one, not as the plain one, but as the woman who stood when they tried to bury her. Amelia collapsed onto a chair, her gown crumpling, her face streaked with tears. Marcus stood beside her, his jaw clenched, his chest heaving, but his arrogance had no ground left. Every lie had been nailed to the wall. I placed the small speaker back into my clutch and turned to leave, my heels clicking against marble, each step louder than their crumbling denials. The green dress flowed behind me, once mocked, now unforgettable. At the door I paused. The hall was filled with silence again, heavier than any laugh they had ever thrown at me. I let my eyes sweep the crowd one last time. "Merry Christmas," I said softly, my voice carrying. "Enjoy the silence you created." Then I walked out. Because though I had revealed everything and stripped them of their smugness, I knew the fallout would not end there. Tomorrow the world would read the story, and Marcus and Amelia would face consequences they could never escape. The echo of my footsteps still lingered in the hall when the room erupted. At first it was only whispers. Guests leaning close, hands covering mouths, eyes darting between Amelia and Marcus. But soon whispers grew into sharp voices, outrage spilling like wine across the marble floor. "Unbelievable," a woman gasped. "I knew something was off," another muttered. "Shameful. In front of everyone." Amelia sat slumped in her chair, veil sliding down, mascara streaking across her cheeks. Her gown, once a symbol of perfection, looked wilted under the harsh lights. She clutched her chest as though her heart were breaking, but her words betrayed her. "Marcus, fix this. Fix it." Marcus paced like a trapped animal. His suit jacket hung open, tie askew, sweat shining at his temples. "They're lies," he roared, though his voice cracked. "All of it. She planned this to destroy us." Evelyn stepped calmly into the center aisle, her briefcase tucked under her arm. "The documents are certified. The recordings are verified. If you want to contest them, Mr. Cole, you may do so in court." Her tone was steady, each word like a nail sealing the coffin. Lydia moved quickly, her subtle hands delivering the last of the evidence packets into the right palms. Naomi gave a nod to two journalists, who had already begun typing furiously on their phones, recording every detail. By morning, this scandal would no longer be confined to one glittering hall. It would spread like fire. My parents sat frozen near the front. My mother's face was pale, her eyes wide with shock. My father rubbed his forehead, shame etched into his posture. For years they had let Amelia's sharp tongue go unchecked, telling me to ignore her teasing. Now their silence had caught up with them. One of the guests, a longtime business partner of Marcus, stood abruptly, his voice loud. "I cannot associate with this. Betrayal in family means betrayal in business." He tossed his napkin onto the table and walked out. Others followed, some disgusted, others eager to distance themselves before the story hit the press. Amelia tried one last desperate plea. She stood, reaching for Victor's parents, who had been watching with grim expressions. "Please, you have to believe me, it was nothing serious. I love your family." Victor's mother pulled her hand back sharply. "No. You love yourself, Amelia. And you have disgraced every vow you spoke tonight." Her voice was icy, final. The sting of rejection hit harder than any slap. Amelia collapsed back into her chair, covering her face. Marcus, still pacing, pointed at Evelyn, then at Lydia. "You're all conspiring against me. Against us. She's jealous because I never loved her the way she wanted." The crowd hissed with disdain. A man's voice shouted from the back. "We heard you, Marcus. On the recording. Those were your words." The strength drained from his posture. He tried to laugh it off, but the laugh was hollow, brittle. "Everyone lies sometimes. Everyone cheats sometimes." Gasps. Murmurs of disgust. A woman in pearls shook her head. "Not everyone betrays their wife with her own sister." The air grew heavy, judgment pressing from every corner of the room. I lingered just outside the doors, hearing every sound, every shift in tone. I did not need to see their faces. I could feel the collapse. The green silk dress against my skin reminded me. This was not cruelty. This was justice. Inside, Amelia's sobs echoed against the high ceiling. Marcus's fury snapping like brittle wood. The once glittering hall had become a cage of shame. And the audience, once eager to celebrate, now stood as witnesses to their downfall. Naomi slipped outside and found me in the foyer. "It worked," she whispered. "They're finished. The story is already spreading. By dawn the whole city will know." I nodded once, calm, my hands steady at my sides. The silence I had carried for months was gone. The burden no longer mine. Because though the room had turned against them tonight, tomorrow the world would join in. And Marcus and Amelia would learn that the weight of betrayal is not carried in private. It is dragged into the light for everyone to see. The next morning, I woke to a phone buzzing like a wasp's nest. Dozens of notifications filled my screen. Headlines glared in bold across every feed, every site, every gossip blog. Sister's secret affair exposed at holiday gala. Businessman Marcus Cole humiliated as double life revealed. From Christmas mockery to public ruin. Susan's silence shatters betrayal. I sat on the edge of my bed, my heart pounding, reading each one. The humiliation that had weighed on me for months had shifted, heavy and sharp, onto their shoulders. For the first time I breathed without that knot in my chest. Lydia called first, her voice a mixture of triumph and disbelief. "Susan, you're everywhere." Guests posted the recordings online. Journalists published overnight. The video of Amelia breaking down and Marcus shouting is already viral. People are calling you brave. Do you understand? Brave. Tears stung my eyes, not of grief this time but of release. "It's real," I whispered. "It's finally real." By noon, Amelia's name was trending, but not with praise. Screenshots of her emails to Marcus spread like wildfire, captions dripping with mockery. "At the wedding everything begins?" More like everything ended. Strangers dissected her words, her cruelty, her desperation. She had wanted an audience for her triumph, and now she had one for her disgrace. Marcus fared no better. His business partners issued statements, distancing themselves. "We have no tolerance for dishonesty in any form," one read. His clients dropped him in waves. Photographs of him pacing red-faced at the gala were plastered across headlines. His arrogance now framed as weakness. He tried to defend himself. He posted a long message online. "Every marriage has struggles. Lies have been told to paint me as a villain. I ask for privacy during this difficult time." The responses cut sharper than any blade. "Privacy? You laughed while humiliating your wife. We heard your recordings. You cannot lie to your own voice. You deserve the ruin you created." Evelyn stopped by that afternoon, her calm composure unshaken. She placed a folder on my table. "Legal coverage is airtight. They cannot sue you for defamation. It is all verified, certified, authenticated. If Marcus tries, it will collapse. As for Amelia, she has no ground to stand on. Her own words condemned her." I exhaled, a weight leaving me. "So it's done." "It's only beginning," Evelyn replied softly. "But for them, not for you. My parents called that evening." My mother's voice trembled. "Susan, we are sorry. We let her mock you for years. We should have defended you. Last night we saw what we ignored. We saw who she really is." I closed my eyes, memories flashing of Christmases past, of Amelia's smirks brushed aside as teasing. "You chose silence then," I said quietly. "And now silence has punished her instead." My father's voice broke through, heavy with regret. "We're proud of you. Proud that you stood tall. We wish we had taught you sooner to fight back. Their remorse did not heal every wound, but it was something. For once they spoke truth instead of excuses. That night, I walked past the grand hall where everything had unfolded. The decorations were still there, garlands sagging, petals crushed into the carpet, glasses overturned on abandoned tables. The echo of last night's silence seemed to cling to the walls. I stood in the doorway, the green silk dress wrapped around me like a second skin, and whispered into the emptiness. You mocked this dress. You mocked me. Now it is your ruin. The city lights glowed behind me, the air sharp with winter frost. My humiliation was gone. In its place was something harder, brighter, freedom. Because though Amelia and Marcus had been stripped in public, my story wasn't only about exposing them. It was about reclaiming my voice, and preparing to tell the world that silence, when wielded with patience, can be the sharpest revenge. The storm had passed, but its echoes stayed. Days after the gala, I walked through the city streets, my head higher than it had been in years. The winter air was cold, but it felt clean. I no longer carried their laughter like a stone on my back. That weight belonged to Amelia and Marcus now. People recognized me. Not everyone spoke, but I saw it in their eyes. Some gave me quiet nods. Others whispered my name with respect. Strangers had watched me stand when my family mocked me, and then watched me bring truth into the light. My humiliation had become my triumph. Amelia vanished from public life. Her social media accounts were wiped. Her apartment reportedly empty. Rumors swirled that she had gone to stay with distant relatives, too ashamed to show her face. Marcus tried harder to claw his way back, posting photos boasting about new ventures, insisting he was fine. But the comments followed him everywhere, sharp as knives. His arrogance had become his prison. My parents struggled with shame too. For years they had brushed off Amelia's cruelty as harmless teasing. Now they saw it for what it was, a poison that had been allowed to grow. When my mother called, her voice cracked. We see you differently now, Susan. You are stronger than we ever realized. It hurt that they hadn't seen it before, but hearing it at last mattered. The green silk dress hung in my closet, pressed and waiting. I kept it not as a scar but as a reminder. Once it had been a symbol of humiliation. Now it was proof that what others mock can become your greatest weapon. I learned something through this. Revenge is not about screaming louder than your enemies. It is not about fire and broken glass. Sometimes the sharpest revenge is patience. It is silence. It is collecting every insult, every betrayal, and turning them into a blade so clean that when you finally strike, no one can deny its edge. They mocked me at Christmas. They told me I was plain, forgettable. They thought my silence meant surrender. But when the governor introduced me as his partner, when the world heard their lies exposed, the silence fell on them. And it was heavier than any laughter they had ever used to wound me. And to you, yes, you listening to my story, hear me clearly. If someone tells you that you are nothing, if they mock your worth or dismiss your presence, do not let their cruelty define you. Their words are only the measure of their own emptiness. Your silence is not weakness. It can be the foundation of your strength. Wait, watch, gather. And when the moment comes, speak the truth with calm certainty. Because the truth, once revealed, does not whisper. It thunders. This was my story. If you have ever been betrayed, mocked, or silenced, let my journey remind you. You are stronger than their cruelty. Patience is power. Silence is strategy. And revenge, when lawful and deliberate, can be the sweetest kind of justice. Subscribe for more stories where betrayal is exposed, where arrogance collapses, and where revenge is not just survival but victory.